I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook, baby.
Yeah.
Long COVID Joe. You actually have it.
What's funny, I tested negative like 2.5 weeks ago.
That doesn't mean anything.
So yeah, I think it's just long COVID.
Long COVID.
Freaking
How many? Are you not getting vaccinated monthly?
I'm
Wears
getting
off.
because because I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I'm just
Then it works even better. And if you don't, and here's the logic I've heard. If you do get the vaccine and you get COVID, well, imagine how much worse it would have been if you didn't get the vaccine and you got COVID. It's quite the as a lawyer, I appreciate that logic.
I've always kind of wrestled with the logic of like the politicization of vaccines, because it seemed like vaccine skepticism tended to come from the right mostly, but the vaccines were created under Trump. Like it was because of Project like Warp Speed or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
and Trump has bragged about like how great the vaccines were. So it's sort of like, how do you reconcile that as a right winger? Like, do you?
Yeah, I think he's gonna. I mean, we were not going to get into politics. We right away just derailed. Immediately, we're going to get that bar under it for COVID talk, because we were not planning to talk about this at all. I think that's something DeSantis is going to attack him on.
Right.
I think Trump just puts his finger to the wind and just says whatever. Like, I think he's proud of that. Should be, in a way. I don't know. I'm not a GOP consultant. I think it would be, look, we thought this was good at the time. If I were his consultant, I'd say, I think this was good at the time. I made this happen. I wouldn't have locked us down. That's up to the governors, right?
Yeah.
That's why South Dakota did something different than California. And, I'm not a scientist. I listen to the scientists. They're going to say, well, you should have pushed back more. I agree with that, actually. But they lied to you. They're all in bed with the Democrats, and then he just pivots to Democrat shit. And I think DeSantis is going to, while I definitely agree with his approach more, I think people are like looking at other issues now, which kind of just sucks for timing. Like DeSantis crushed that timing with the midterms. I don't know if it's going to play as hard in the primaries, but I don't really care, because I'm probably not voting for either of them anyway. Like I'm really liking RFK, and that's going to be my guy, I think.
Yeah, he's been making the rounds on podcasts lately.
Fucking awesome, dude. Like, again, we're gonna end the politics talk here after, but like,
sure.
It feels good. This is what I've been saying. It feels good. I feel like I would actually be voting for someone and not against someone or something.
Exactly.
Like many of the last elections, I've just been voting against, and that's what a lot of people have done.
Yeah.
Especially if you were a Biden voter, very few people were like pro Biden for obvious reasons. They just hated Trump.
Yeah.
Or they're just gonna vote Democrat, whatever. Like. Voting for RFK for me, I share a lot of his values. Again, I'm going to put $1 in the jar. I don't agree with everything he says, right? Like, but you shouldn't agree with anyone, especially a politician says. Like, you shouldn't agree with everything they say. But I do feel like I'm voting for someone and not against this candidate or this party, which I've done the several last elections on both sides, honestly.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. I was looking him up on Wikipedia real quick earlier today, funnily, and it said that he was espousing conspiracy theories, such as America's been spending more on the military rather than on healthcare and education. And it's like, how is that a conspiracy? Like the military-industrial complex, like that seemed like kind of like a matter of
factually,
course.
Like that's factually true.
Yeah, like there's just a bunch of things where it's like, oh, the U.S. is a COVID benefited billionaires more than the middle class. It's like, yeah, I thought that was kind of. Like,
that's
what
like,
do you mean? Like,
that's like a left wing. That's like a left wing thing to say, and like left wing thing to argue and be against. And dude, how I look at it as for not everything, like obviously not flat Earth, not 9/11 shit, like but like most of these conspiracies, quote unquote, they're conspiracy, and then the feelers get put out there, and then 6 months to a year later, year and a half later, the New York Times is agreeing with you.
Exactly.
Like that's mostly what it is. And it's bullshit. And I think it's completely wrong. Like they slander people, they libel people, they entire swaths of people who are just like asking questions or making their own decisions or viewing the data or whatever it is from a different way. And now it's like lab leak is the best example of this. Like, it's not even likely probable, but almost certain that this thing came from a lab.
Yeah.
And I'm not going as far as to say it was a bioweapon. I don't think it was. I think it was an accident. Definitely an accident.
Yeah.
But definitely came from that lab. And that's like so like if you were saying that in 2020, maybe early 2021, you were like tarred and feathered. But then a little bit later, Jon Stewart can make a joke about it on network television.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I remember when Brett Weinstein was talking about it during the early days of the pandemic, and he's an evolutionary biologist, and he goes, "I'm not even saying that it was created as a bioweapon. I'm just saying from a biological standpoint, I'm looking at the way that this virus has been evolving. It doesn't evolve like a natural virus. It evolves like it's like somebody had been messing with it."
Yeah.
And like to say that as like purely scientific, and it's like, oh, you're a racist, you hate Asians. It's like
that was the dumbest argument ever. That like somehow it's more racist to say that this virus came from a like international lab funded by the West that was so dangerous that it moved from Texas to or North Carolina or like some combination of that to China, like we do with most stuff in the first world. We move all the dangerous shit to poorer countries, and that was funded, and you had doctors from all over and people like Fauci funding it, or that's more racist than criticizing a culture for the weird shit they eat. Like, what's more racist there? Like,
right,
definitely the latter. But and people just went along with it. It was insane. And I believed it came from a wet market at first, but I was a shit lib then. Like, I didn't know. Like, I just kind of was taking people's word for it. But yeah, anyway, fuck you, YouTube, because you're gonna, not this is monetized, but you would demonetize this anyway, or maybe get this taken down. It's dumb shit. But this is really not what we were gonna talk about today. But I can't help it.
I know, But so we got some other fun topics to talk about.
We got some more fun. Let's do the irony cults first.
Yeah, the irony cults.
That's very fun.
Yeah. So you sent this to me. This video from this Canadian guy, and it was really good. Like, I like it when somebody kind of sums up something that like where it's like, I know that it's been happening, but somebody kind of describes it like, oh, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because like I would have never even thought of the term irony cult. I thought I would have just considered like that not new anymore, because I feel like it's been around for at least 15 years, but just kind of like irony comedy. Yeah. And so first I want to say, like, I want to give him credit. JJ McCullough, who's a Canadian YouTuber who's very like, he makes really well done videos, mostly about culture, just broadly. And then like all of my Canadian politics I know is from him, basically. Maybe a little bit from Jacobin, a little, and not Chapo, right? They're all American. No, Jacobin, a little bit there, because some of them are in Canada. But all of my politics, and like I follow Canadian elections now and politicians because of JJ McCullough. He would love to hear that. He's one of those, he's a conservative, as in like that's what their party is called there. Definitely probably would be a Democrat here. I can't tell. Like, definitely a moderate. He's also gay. But he talks about like he hates this whole like, it's not my first thing. Like, I'm also white. I'm also middle class. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a writer. I'm a reporter. Like, and he hates how like that's the first thing that a contingent of people want to focus on. But he's very interesting. Makes a lot of cool videos just about like random cultural things. He's like probably late 30s, early 40s. So I think he'd be late millennial or early millennial, even Gen X. He really loves stuff like The Simpsons and Nintendo. Anyway, he's a really interesting guy. He has no idea who I am, but I'm just promoting his channel. I really like it. It's like regularly on my algorithm. And then bring it to this episode for us. He made a video about irony cults, which, and right away I was hooked, because he talks about this topic about Jerry Maguire, the movie. Joe, do you want to explain everything is terrible?
So in LA, there is this weird performance arts group sort of thing, collective type thing called Everything is Terrible. And when you visited LA about a year and a half ago or so, we were watching some of their videos of just like they're really obsessed with like early 90s VHS culture. So they take like
So
weird,
niche.
and it's very specific, but they'll take just like weird, like when you were a kid, was if there's like when you collected enough GI Joes and you could send in the thing, then you get a VHS. So, it's a GI Joe hip hop dance party thing or something, like weird random specific stuff where it's like it existed for 3 months in 1993. So they'll take like all these weird VHS things. Direct to video infomercials, stuff like that, and they'll splice them together, and they'll often create like these like there's not like a specific storyline, but they'll kind of contrast them to kind of create jokes. And that
they didn't do TV Carnage, right?
No, but TV Carnage is very similar.
They're like their type of humor.
Exactly,
TV Carnage, which also like you introduced me to, which is so funny.
I remember we watched hours and hours
of it. That's why I basically blacked out during our episode with Pat and Vinny, because we were just pre-gaming TV Carnage. I was drinking those seltzers, but anyway, so they're really into like early to mid 90s VHS culture and everything like that, and so one of their biggest project that they're most known for is collecting VHS tapes of Jerry Maguire, the classic hit film written and directed by Cameron Crowe and starring Tom Cruise and Renee Zellweger. And they want to build a pyramid like out in the middle of the desert. That always makes me laugh. They're like met with an architect.
And it's funny because like so when I showed you that video came out in 2017, I think. And so and so my friend and I we thought that they were not doing it like maybe like this kind of phased it out, like it was like this weird wacky one-off joke. But last year, Everything Is Terrible did a performance right down the street. There's this cool performance that like this theater venue right down the street. So they did this performance thing, and my friend had actually collected like 4 or 5 tapes of VHS, and that's why we told you, because you asked like, why do you have so many copies of Jerry Maguire?
Yeah, so I was overlooking it like I tend to do in people's homes. I just naturally gravitate towards the bookshelf.
Yeah,
and like movie, and this was kind of combined. Correct me if I'm wrong. That there were movies on there, and I'm looking around I'm like, why are there 4 copies of Jerry Maguire? I don't get it. And then they're like, all right, sit down.
All right, we got something to show you, man.
Yep. Yeah.
So about like a year or so ago, so like 3 or 4 years after they started this whole project, Everything Is Terrible was doing a performance, and so my roommate's like, oh, should I bring the VHS tapes? I was like, I don't think they're going to be collecting them at a live thing. So we go, and they did this whole performance thing, and it was pretty fun. And afterwards, they were like, hey, does anybody have any copies of Jerry Maguire? Because we're ready to collect. And they brought these big garbage bags, and like half the crowd was bringing that. And my friend's like, dude, I should have brought it, man. So they're still doing it. So
that's great. My dad will he'll go to the recreation center in his beach town, and they'll have when I lived there, it was great actually, because like people have been discarding great books. And there's a lot of like garbage, like old cookbooks that no one wants,
right? And Danielle Steele type shit,
right? Exactly. And there will also be tons of Danielle Steele stuff. It's a beach community, so it's like half of the books that it's like Danielle Steele and like James Patterson, and like those kind of books. They take up entire shelves of the library. But anyway, they're popular, whatever. Clive Cussler, dad lit. But I told him, and then also big VHS tapes. I'm big, Dad, I don't have a VHS. Like I don't have a DVD player right now. That I actually might get a DVD player, but I definitely not gonna get VHS. But I said, if you see Jerry Maguire, get that for me, because that's one VHS though, actually. And I just send it to you to send to them at some point.
Yeah. Well,
do they still have the store?
No, they don't. So in the video that I showed you, they rented out like a little art gallery, and they had, it was just shelves and shelves of VHS. So it's funny because like the original tape was red, but because it's so old, it's kind of like this faded pink now.
Yeah.
And so like they showed footage of it. It's like rows and rows and rows of like faded pink Jerry Maguire tapes, and only VHS. They don't accept DVDs or anything. And so they rented out like this little art gallery in Echo Park, not too far from here. And so they had like this grand opening thing, and then they had people like, hey, I got 5 copies of, like, oh my God, thank you so much. And so like they had like this big party, and I remember they had one guy, and he's dressed up, and like it was like his suit was just VHS's. He's like this, like the Michelin Man, like a really gay Michelin Man, just like
part of Everything Is Terrible, or like a fan.
Oh yeah, it was part of like an event that they hosted.
Oh, hold on, dude.
Yeah.
Can you give me a second? Sorry,
Yeah.
my cat's being a dumbass. I'll be right
Okay.
there. God damn it! How am I supposed to eat dinner when I give you dinner? Come here.
Yeah. I think this is going to be Ben's last episode. I'm pretty sure that he's just not bringing the energy. I'm getting so much fan mail. I'm getting so many girls just sending me naked pics saying, I want
I can hear you, by
to have
the
a
way.
podcast baby with you. Oh, hey, Ben, how's it going, man?
What who's sending naked pics?
That was weird interference. I think there was like a cop car that drove by or something, and it's just picking up that frequency. Yeah.
Train that goes by your house every 20 minutes. It's like right past your bed. Like
yeah,
it's like 30 feet. It's like 30 feet from your bed.
Yeah, isn't it great? It makes you feel like you're in the city.
It's funny because no one thinks of LA as having like any public transportation.
Yeah.
You guys have a subway, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever take it?
I've taken it once, yeah, to downtown LA, yeah.
You've taken it once.
And I took it back. So
right. Okay. Yeah, that's not really like does not really have people utilize public. It's like more of a random experience. But anyway, Jerry Maguire, yeah. So do they still have plans to make the pyramid? Because that is hilarious. That's like taking it to a whole nother level. They met with an architect to make out in the desert, right?
Yeah. Like they actually met with like a contractor, and they're like, oh yeah, like we can, once we lay it all down, then we'll put like this hard plastic, to kind of bind it all together, or like this polyurethane or whatever. So they want to build like this big shrine pyramid out in the desert. As far as I know, so as of last year, they were still collecting. On their website, I think they have a thing that just says, "Hey, you want to send us some Jerry Maguire things? Here's the address. Here's the PO box that you can send us VHS tape." So,
yeah, that's great. And I hope so. Why are we talking about this? So the irony cult is like that's what JJ says. What I think he lays out really well is that it's not like a legit, like there's difference between like a fandom would be like real lovers of Jerry Maguire. And I don't know how many of those there are. Like it's a good movie. It's not anything special. It's not like The Room where it has this cult following because it's so bad.
Right.
Because it's not a bad, I wouldn't say it's a bad movie at all. It's a good movie. It's just like a standard 90s rom-com. Like, and it's also, so it's not like a hate thing either.
Right.
Like they're not, so it's this like third more confusing thing, which is what makes it funny because it's like nostalgic. It's kind of like kitschy. I think that has a lot to do with like the physical appearance of the movie. It being red is like I remember growing up that like the Rugrats movie was like blue, orange, or no, Hey Arnold I think was orange, like the actual movie. I think one was blue. So like you would get these every once in a while. I think that really adds to it. But it's like this just appreciation for this moment in culture.
And it's so funny that you bring up the color of the thing, because they even said in the Everything Is Terrible video that they were like, yeah, like for whatever reason, every Goodwill store, every secondhand store, there we just saw like this bright pinkish red thing just sticking out of all of the VHS tapes that they had there.
Yeah, I definitely think that's something to do with it, how it stands out. It's like the writing on it. It's just like Jerry Maguire. It's not like some really long title and flowery letters. It's like the white cover with them on it, and then the side just says the name, and then the physical movie itself is red. And my fear is like that. It feels very authentic, and I think what makes irony cults fun is it's not mean spirited,
right?
Like I don't think they're not being mean. You have to like it enough. The other one he talks about is Shrek, which I don't really care. Like Shrek feels a little much. Like I don't know. I don't like Shrek in that way. Where I think to me, Shrek feels a little more like a fandom than an irony cult. Like I don't know. I would talk with JJ about that. That does feel a little more like a fandom. I like Shrek, but I think the Jerry Maguire, the Everything's Terrible group really personifies that type of comedy. Yeah. And what the irony cult is. Like he also talks about Garfield, and Garfield's much older, but that also has that contingent to it. I didn't really know about this. Like Garfield has this whole like internet community.
I've seen it, and I think like it's like his hatred of Mondays. I think just kind of resonates with like millennials who like think that who have a full-time job and they think that because of that like capitalism is the worst thing ever. It's like, oh, like the reason I hate Mondays is because I have to go to work. And it's like,
oh, okay. Yeah, so I don't know enough about that one. The Jerry Maguire one seems perfect, and it is this type of humor that I don't like. So I think I brought up this example before. There was this period in the late 2000s, I feel like when I was in high school, basically 2007, 2008, 2009, where it was similar to this kind of comedy, but not as clever. And it was what I call like random comedy.
Yeah.
And one example I always think of, I think it was Dairy Queen. They had these commercials where it's like, they're not just bunnies, they're kung fu bunnies. It's not just a cloud, it's a cloud that goes, oh yeah. And it was just like totally random. And to me, like, even at that age where I was in that demographic of who they were appealing to, I was like, this is so not funny. This is not clever. It's like I was about to say Ninja Turtle. That's a real thing, but it's like, it's a ninja zombie turtle hamburger eating. It's like, no, that's just random shit you're putting together. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Part of this, and then I don't mean to go on a tangent here, but like I love the show Rick and Morty, and they actually I think do this really well. Where they have, do you watch Rick and Morty?
I watched the first episode and I enjoyed it, but I haven't seen much else after that.
Well, there's like 5 or 6 seasons. You should watch it. It's great. Love it. Like actually a fan of it. They do this thing called interdimensional cable, which is kind of like their version of a clip show, but it's random. It's as if they put on a channel that just has all the television in the galaxy or multiple galaxies or whatever, and it's just like random shit, but it's funny. And I guess maybe I'm being hypocritical here, but it'll be like just a place where like the food, like little bits, like the food is too small and it's just funny with the food. It's like it's a little, and I think the joke is that they're just riffing and they're drunk or whatever, and like there's kind of making the animation based off what Justin Roiland is like saying and just kind of random shit. But so I guess maybe hypocritical there. They do it well, but like, so I think my point is irony cults, like it's very hit or miss. Jerry Maguire, that everything's terrible is a total hit for me personally. I think it's hilarious. Like I've watched that video 2 or 3 times. Every time they bring up the pyramid, I just laugh. I think it's so
fucking funny. And real quick, I have video. I'm sorry, I have their website up right now. Everything is Terrible presents the Jerry Maguire Pyramid Project. And I like how it says right under it, yes, this is real. Over the last 7 years, Everything is Terrible has amassed the world's largest collection of Jerry Maguire VHS tape. 7 years. So let's see, that video came out 2017. So yeah, apparently, they're still doing it.
Wow. Yeah.
So now they need your help to make this stupid dream a reality.
They say stupid dream.
Yeah. $500,000 will be needed to cover the land, materials, and labor that are necessary to build a permanent and safe pyramid of the size. So they started a GoFundMe and they've raised $1,243.
Wait, how much money do they need?
500,000.
Oh my god!
And they've raised 1,200. So the last donation was 3 years ago, $40. Which makes it even funnier to me.
It's very fun. I love that they raised $1,200 for $500,000 goal.
But they're still doing it. I love that. I respect.
Yeah,
that, so.
it's
actually funny. So since the last year, since I've looked at this website, they've actually beefed it up a bit. So it looks like it's still pretty active.
Yeah, that's really good. Irony, like so not to get too in the weeds of irony cults, I do think part of it is it's well intentioned. Like it's fun. It feels like what I loved about Everything is Terrible. Not that I know them outside of this at all. So like in this project is that it feels so like it's just nice. Like it's just pure and funny, and it's not. There's never a point to me, at least, where I felt like they were winking at the camera. like
right.
where it was tongue in cheek. Maybe someone else could read it as such, but it feels like the whole time, even if they're acting, like it just feels like they legitimately just love Jerry Maguire and want to not love it because it's not like a fandom, but like it didn't feel like they were making fun of it.
Right. Yeah. So this definitely falls into that weird gray area of like we don't really like it, but at the same time we like celebrating it. And we like celebrating with other people who like to celebrate it, and so we're having so much fun just in that aspect of it. I think a big part of how this culture came about is through memes. It's like you know,
100%. Yep.
I heard that when George Lucas released American Graffiti in the early 70s, then like hot rod 1950s culture became very popular for a brief period in like the early 70s.
70s. Totally.
So I can definitely see that. But obviously they didn't have the internet back then. So I think that there is definitely when people reach a certain age, like their 20s and 30s, there is kind of like, okay, I'm old enough to be nostalgic now.
Sure.
But because we have the internet and social media and memes, like things can mutate very quickly, like a virus. So it's like somebody makes a dumb joke about Jerry Maguire, and that turns into a pyramid out in the desert. Somebody can make a joke about Shrek, and then that turns into like this weird Shrek porno thing, and people are doing like fan art and stuff. Somebody can make a joke about Garfield, and then it turns to people doing this whole fan fiction and all this crazy shit very quickly.
Yeah, even more so is that what you keep. I feel like this is a recurring article, or not article, like a recurring Twitter or social media thing is like Gen Z finding out about X because of Y, where it's like, unlike in the past where it was like, let's say George Lucas being nostalgic about growing up in Modesto in the 50s, early 60s, and making a movie about it. And then that time period, I guess, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm kind of convincing myself the opposite here. Maybe like, I don't know if it was so. Do you know when? Because Tarantino talks about this also. This longing for this more innocent era because the 70s were so shitty in terms of like crime and inflation and
government and all.
Government, Vietnam War, early 70s. Was that like that age group who grew up during that time really falling back into their childhood, or was it like the young? But like the different generation interested in that time? Like I don't know. Like,
right.
Because now like we get a mix of it. Here's a great example. It's like Stranger Things is a great example, right? Like the Russo brothers are or excuse me, not Russo brothers, Duffer brothers are from that time period. I'm sure they played Dungeons and Dragons in their friends' basements, shit like that. And that got that like Gen X age group, early millennial Gen X age group, like nostalgic for that time period. And those are the creatives at that time. You're in your 30s and 40s and you're making the art. So of course it goes back to the 80s. And then we're seeing more 90s. Now it's like even early 2000s nostalgia is a thing with Gen Z. But it's like they're finding out about it because of memes and stuff.
Right.
So like that song that even I put on my Spotify that I didn't know about, Running Up That Hill. That was like I found out about from Stranger Things, even though that was a song from the 80s. So I find that very interesting. It's like, oh, Gen Z finds out about X because of some meme, and it's like there's kind of that knee jerk, like, oh, that's our shit. Like you kind of become gatekeeper, but that's also like, oh well, I want them to enjoy it too. Yeah,
it's so funny. I felt that way about what was that movie with Jonah Hill? It was like one of his first hits. Superbad, yeah. And they had Van Halen's Panama. And like I remember I was being into Van Halen for like 5 years before that movie came out. And then like all of my stupid friends, when you say stupid, like just my classmates, like, oh yeah, Van Halen's cool because of Panama. And there's a part that's like, fuck you. But at the same time, it's like that 1980, that album came out before I was even born. So it's not like I have any. And also it's like, hey, if more people are finding out about Van Halen, cool. So
wait, when is Panama in Superbad?
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but there was like some car chase, like I think when they go joyriding or something, or I mean, it was definitely used a lot in the trailer from the movie, and I'm pretty sure it's used briefly in the movie.
That movie is so good, though.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if that movie is going to that they epitomized. Like we're the same age.
Yeah.
That was like 2007.
Yeah.
That felt so spot on about like trying to like get someone, like getting alcohol can be such an issue sometimes, like the house party and the phone not always working well. Like that's not really an issue anymore. Like, you won't even call each other, like some girl, like you would just be texting or something like that. Like I don't know, I thought it really just nailed our age group, not just like our generation, but graduate. I graduate the next year or something, or like 2 years, like that exact age group of late 2000s high school. That I don't know if that's going to resonate the same way with a high schooler now. I don't think so.
Right.
I think Booksmart was a little. I really like Booksmart. They call it's like the female super bad.
Okay.
I thought it was really good. That came out 2019. It has a lot of the same issues, but more like they're more politically inclined. Like they're talking more about politics, somewhat. Right. It's a lot more academically focused. Like the whole point of the movie is that these two friends focus so much on academics and hang out with each other to get into good schools that they kind of missed out in high school. But then they realized that all their friends who were partying too were also going to like literally some of the same schools they were going to. Like, so it's like we could have had both. I think it's a really good movie, but maybe that resonates more with Gen Z. But yeah, Superbad just nailed it, man. Like we could do a whole episode on Superbad.
Yeah. But the Irony Cults thing is interesting because like when I was working in the Silicon Valley startup scene, you know, pretty like I don't think there was anybody who was like maybe the CEO, but like pretty much everybody was under the age of 35, 36. Like, so we're all kind of around the same, like mid 20s to mid 30s. And so it was because it was Silicon Valley, like, you know, definitely worked with more, you know, kind of woke hipster millennial types. And I just like, it was just interesting to me seeing how millennials can just latch onto something and just become obsessed with it, even if they know nothing about it. So Bob Ross, they just, like I worked with a couple of girls who just loved Bob Ross. They didn't watch Bob Ross, but I love watching clips, and it's like I literally, like, you know, unironically love him. He's literally a thing now.
Oh yeah, like, I missed that train. I missed the Bob Ross. Like I remember Bob Ross as a kid. Like I do remember. I don't know, was I watching reruns then? Like when was Bob Ross around?
I'm pretty sure he was in the 80s, maybe late 80s, but I don't remember. I remember seeing it as a kid, but I'm pretty sure they were reruns.
Right. So he wasn't even doing, and he just like paints, right?
Yeah. And he talks all soothingly. And I guess he's kind of like, you know, like the Mr. Rogers of that time.
Yeah. He's like a Mr. Rogers for adults, kind of.
Yeah.
I liked him, but I do feel like he became an internet meme that I just kind of swipe like next. Like it never really clicked with me.
Right.
I do remember. I also remember Gallagher. I do remember watching Gallagher too as a kid.
Is he the one who trashed all those melons, those watermelons?
He would smash the watermelons. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that was very funny.
Me too. I actually, as a kid, we actually had a VHS. I think it was called Melon Crazy, and like the whole thing was just him. It was a live comedy show. Like it was like a comedy special from the 80s, and it was just him having fun with watermelons on stage, and like
he would just smash them.
Yeah, and he'd make jokes about him, like in between. But like it was one of those things where it's like if you sat in the first like 10 rows, you had to like wear a poncho, sort of.
Yeah, I remember that. I only remember one of his jokes, and it was, "I like the shape of Florida because it looks like we're pissing on Cuba." That's the only joke I remember from him. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. But anywho, everything's terrible. What are they doing now?
I'm not sure. I got their website right here. Everything's it's its own website. It's called JerryMaguirePyramid.com.
I kind of love that they haven't raised like 100,200. I love that they both raised 1,200.
It's probably just from their friends too. Live. Are they still doing any events?
So funny.
I know. Yeah, they're still doing shows. They're still doing
what are
live.
their shows? Are they improv? Are they sketch? Are they?
It's so when we went. Oh, they got one in LA in August. I'll go to that. And Lodge Room, yeah, which is right down the street. Nice. It's when we went last year, it was like they were mostly showing footage like the compilations of like the VHS crap from like the remixes and all that. It was mostly that, but they had some wraparound stuff in between. Like it was sort of like they had like it was almost like Sesame Street. Like they had characters coming out, like people coming out and like, as goofy animals and talking and riffing with each other a little bit. And then they would present 30 minutes of craziness and then come back out and do some more stuff. It was pretty cool. It was a little expensive. I think it was like $25 or something. It was like, I felt like if it was like $10 or $15, I felt like it would have been more worth it. But it's like, this is just.
I need a little more structure.
Exactly. Yeah.
With my money, dude. Just side note, I was gonna go like Shane Gillis, a big fan.
Yeah.
Go see him. I was gonna go see him in AC. And I don't know if people are gonna think I'm cheap because of this, but like the tickets were very reasonably priced, like $40. I was like, totally, I'm myself and my fiance done, easy. And then when they tack on the fees for Ticketmaster, it came to $168.
Jesus Christ.
For like just to get in the door.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, I love you, but I'm not going to see a Broadway show here.
Yeah.
Like and I love stand-up comedy, but like, man, an hour of like $168 just to get in the door seems like ridiculous in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
It's just fees. It's not even like that's going. It'd be one thing if that's all going to Shane. Like that's going to Ticketmaster. That's going to the venue. Like all this other bullshit. That like that should be in the ticket.
Yeah.
And I like I'm like fuck, man. Like I really want to see him, but out of principle, like, it's such bullshit.
Yeah, it's insane, man. I've definitely done it to a few shows where it's like, oh, $35 for a show. Okay, no, that's fine. That's cool. I can do that. And then it being 60 something, I was like, whoa, hold on. Like, where did all these taxes and fees and shit? It's crazy.
Like, so if those are like those taxes and fee, all that's definitely not going to the performer, right?
Oh no, yeah, seriously.
Then I'm sure the ticket
just
price,
tell me $65 ticket.
Like the ticket prices, and because how much is he actually getting? Like, I'm not just going to go line the pockets of Ticketmaster.
Right.
I'm sorry to see stand-up comedy, which I do love. I would love to see more of it.
Yeah.
I do. I live in the suburbs. Like AC is right here. It is cool. Like we do get shows. Like we get comedians. We get bands. They actually advertise a lot up in like when you're heading into New York City. Like the buses come down to AC are a lot. I actually read AC's got an increase in tourism. Everyone rips on it, but I'm glad to see that. But at the same time, it's like what these prices are prohibitive.
Yeah.
To like go see a comedy show. I don't know. Maybe someone else would be like, dude, that's nothing. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's out of principle. Like $40 a pop, done. Like I'm going, but $168, that seems excessive.
I'm looking at tickets for Everything Is Terrible. Luckily, it's not too bad. So it's $25 for a ticket, and then only $6.25 for fees. So it comes up to $31. So that's not too bad. But
I don't know, throw in some drinks or something. Like you may be giving me parking. Like even that again, like even if the dollars and cents come out to the same or whatever, at least it doesn't feel like I'm just flushing it down the toilet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like make me feel comfortable as a consumer. It's like pretty basic shit.
Right.
And I thought Ticketmaster was getting sued for this stuff because of the Taylor Swift bullshit. And I thought they were cutting this out, but I don't know. I have to really like and I don't know. I'm still considering going but now because I really want to see Shane Gillis.
Don't you hate when that happens where it's like, like they hardly ever come to this part of town. Like I really want to go see it. It's like, but it costs 3 times more than I was hoping to pay. And I thought I was willing to pay quite a bit.
I would doesn't Louis like do everything through his website and that like keeps prices down, but you have to go like I would do that because I actually do follow like I'll follow if you promote it, like if like I saw Shane he tweeted his tour schedule, like I think it's like a regional tour, maybe not, but I know there's a lot of Pennsylvania, basically Northeast, maybe it's not, so check it for yourself. But I was like, oh, of course, like I'm gonna click on that, and I was actually surprised to see AC. I'm like, oh, I mean, he lives in New York and he's in Philly a lot. It's like, oh, sweet, like I'm gonna go to this. I was free that weekend. I had no plans. It was a Saturday in July. It wasn't like a Wednesday or something. I was like, oh, this is perfect. And if he just sold tickets through like a website on his own, which I'm sure is more legwork, but it kept prices down, like I would go out of my way to do that.
Right.
But like that, I know that's what Louis does, and that's why he does that for that reason. Like he wants people to not like he doesn't want it to be prohibitive to see him. Because of prices, but you have to go through his site.
Yeah. It's a damn bummer, man.
It really is.
Yeah. Well, so that's irony cults, middle class irony cults.
That's middle class irony cults. Yeah, I'm sure. Like now that we talked about this video and JJ made the video, we'll like I'll be on the lookout for more, and we can like bring them up again.
Yeah.
And kind of discuss them, because it's definitely a big thing with our generation. Like I feel like it's very millennial comedy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you think of any off the top of your head? Any others?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I'm pretty distanced from a lot of millennial culture, so it's just sort of like,
yeah.
When I'm like, why are you guys into Bob Ross? Why are you guys into Shrek? I don't know. And by the way, have you seen Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life? Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's not pornographic, but it's pretty bad. It's pretty ridiculous.
What is it?
So it's about this. It's this poorly CGI animated, a video. I mean, it's appropriate enough to show on YouTube, at least, I think. But it's like this teenage boy, and he's obsessed with Shrek, and he's just got like Shrek, merchandise, memorabilia all over his room, and he gets picked on and at school, and his dad thinks he's gay because he's all into Shrek, and then so one night. When I think he got beaten up by his dad or something. Like he starts like praying to Shrek, and then Shrek comes to him in the middle of the night and then has sex with him, and like comes in his butt, and like they don't show it. Like it's all just kind of like like close-ups of his face and close-up of Shrek, like mid orgasm, and then Shrek just kind of flies out the window. And it's like, I think that might have been like the source of it. Like somebody as a joke said, "Hey, remember that fun DreamWorks animated thing we liked as kids? Well, what if I turn into some perverted cartoon?"
Yeah. An example I'm thinking of is, do you remember when someone wrote Colonel Sanders like erotica?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was like that would have been pre-COVID. That was probably like 4 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. Someone wrote Colonel Sanders erotica. So he was like on the cover, all buff, but it's Colonel Sanders. Like it was pretty funny. I wouldn't say it's a cult, because like I think a cult you need a lot more just time.
Yeah.
But it was definitely that type of comedy.
Right.
It was like kitschy and appreciation, like obviously like KFC.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hateful thing.
Right.
I don't know if it's kind of like borderline fandom too. But it's ironic because Colonel Sanders is this not very sexually appealing character, but they made him they made him this hunkosaurus.
I'm so not surprised that somebody did that and that it was kind of a little
but what I appreciate about it was, I think like it wasn't just a meme. It was like someone made this. Like the Jerry Maguire, it's the effort that makes it funnier. It wasn't just like someone made a funny meme, which would be fun. Haha, Colonel Sanders is the woman in his arms and he's got big biceps. Like that'd be funny, but like I think someone actually wrote I think it was like a short novel and had it, like published it with that. Like that's like the effort is what makes it funnier.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I think maybe hating Nickelback. I think that seems to be kind of pretty genuine.
But so I don't think that's an irony cult, because that feels like bad intention. Like people, and that became a meme, and then there was a backlash to that. Which was like, actually Nickelback's like not bad. Like I never fully jumped on that bandwagon. Like that became a thing at like sporting events. It'd be like the star player, if they're playing away, like the fans would have like so and so listens to Nickelback or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I liked Nickelback as a kid. When people started pointing out they're just like a 4 chords band and they all sound the same, I was like, oh, okay, like they're not. But I never really loved them anyway.
Right.
Like I thought they had a couple catchy songs, and they were just like another one of those bands from, was it 2000s, like early 2000s. But then I just as a cultural phenomenon, I followed it, and I thought the backlash was very funny that like people started defending Nickelback then. And it's kind of cyclical in that way.
Yeah.
That's a good one, but definitely on the meaner side.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
It's funny
because I got caught up in that for a bit, but I also kind of stepped back and I was like, I mean, like, I'm not a fan of Nickelback, but I'm like, there are bands that I hate more than Nickelback. I don't see why maybe just sort of like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're kind of cheesy, but it's like they're catchy. It's like there are much worse artists, musical artists that I think deserve to be ripped on more than Nickelback.
I just keep. I'm sorry, I can't. But I love this. You know the song "Photograph."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
look at this photograph, and I like the way it says, like, look at this graph. He's holding up. I don't know why I think it's so funny. Look at this graph.
I remember. Yeah, he's holding up the
What?
the frame there.
I remember as a kid really liking "How You Remind Me."
Yeah, that was a huge hit. And then that
Yeah,
Spider-Man song, that hero song for the first Spider-Man.
Oh, they did that one? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Wait, they did?
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking Enrique Iglesias. He also did
Oh.
a song called "Hero," right?
I probably
could be your hero, baby.
I think so, yeah.
What's the Nickelback song?
I think it's just called Hero. I remember it being in the chorus, like
It was in the first Spider-Man.
yeah.
You're right. Yes, I can't sing it right now, but I do remember.
The
it.
general melody of the chorus there.
Yeah, I like the song "Rockstar." I always thought that was catchy. I like the video.
I don't remember
Remember
that one.
Because we all just wanna be big rock stars.
Yeah.
15 cars. I don't know. The video was good.
Oh.
Whatever.
So what's next on the bullshit list?
The biggest bullshit of all, one of our favorites, is an author self-canceling, which is great because this brings us full circle, because the longtime listeners will remember that episode 1, one of our topics. We used to cram a lot more topics into episodes back then.
Yeah,
but
we're getting old.
Yeah, we're getting old. No, I think we just extrapolate more on less topics. But one of our first topics was author self-censorship, especially that was specifically the YA community,
right,
which seems like a horrible place.
I know
to live, the YA community. With Kosako Jackson, who's mentioned in this article. So I just found, I saw on Twitter that the author Elizabeth Gilbert, who I didn't even know this when I replied to her saying you should probably stop writing then, to her video that she wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah, I never heard her name, but I've heard of some of her works though. So
well, I mean, Eat, Pray, Love was huge. That was like the wine, like the wine mom Rila.
Yeah. Oh,
like this was the, I feel like this set off a whole course of sex tourism for middle-aged women. But so she wrote that and other things, but that's definitely what she's most known for. And do you want me to just summarize what happened?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read parts of, so this is called, this article is in the Free Press. That's Barry Weiss's publication. I think I don't know if she co-edits it with her wife, Nellie Bowles, but this is called Eat, Pray, Cringe. Elizabeth Gilbert cancels herself. This is by Kat Rosenfield, who I still haven't read her book. It's on my list, but I like her a lot.
Yeah, she's great.
Personality. Yeah, she's really good. So I'm just going to read part of it here. And this came out yesterday. It's hard to quite capture the irony of Eat, Pray, Love author Elizabeth Gilbert canceling her novel about Russians living under ... Stalinism. Gilbert claims to have done this in order to placate Ukrainians upset that her new book, The Snow Forest, is set in Siberia, but her self-cancellation is reminiscent of all those who kowtowed to the orthodoxy in Stalinist Russia and, to an extent, Russia today. Her over-the-top apology, her hypersensitivity to invisible critics, her fear of saying anything someone might object to, all of it echoes the craven frustrations of the Communist Party cog, the apparat, the writer puppet who toes whatever line they're told to toe. The great Soviet writers like Boris Pasternak and Alexander Solzhenitsyn grasped that one could not be a writer and a writer in good standing with the Vlast, or power, at the same time. It's especially galling given that Gilbert has a sizable Russian audience. Eat, Pray, Love, like The Devil Wears Prada and Sex and the City, made a big splash in Russia when it came out in the aughts. yada yada. It's really popular there. Basically saying she has Russian fans too. Of course, the cyber censors would have curbed access to the snow forest, but it would have eventually tunneled its way to the iPhones and tablets of young Russian women. It would have reminded them of another Russia mirrored in the lives of those who refuse to conform. Think Yuri Zhivago or Ivan Denisovich. It would have moved things in the right direction. If only Gilbert, lovingly dissected below by Kat Rosenfield, so I guess this might be Barry Weiss, had managed to summon her inner Solzhenitsyn. We're happy to publish it below, thanks to our friends at Pirate Wires, where this originally appeared. Gotcha. Oh, this is Peter Savadnik who wrote that part. So now this is Kat Rosenfield who wrote this thing, basically talking about. I really love the how she describes the video. Elizabeth Gilbert's self-cancellation video is, among other things, an ambitious exercise in genre mixing, the whispering, intimate tone of a TikTok confessional, the stark lighting of a hostage video, and the camera angle of your boomer parents FaceTiming from an iPad that's perched on the coffee table. Gilbert leans into the camera, her blonde hair tumbling around her face, a pair of comically oversized orange glasses perched higher in her nose. They are so big, these glasses, by the way.
Yeah.
And then she...
Like Dr. Seussian big. Like they're huge.
Right. So then here's the actual apology. Sorry, I have like cat hair in my nose. That's why I keep like rubbing my freaking nose. Okay. Over the course of this weekend, this is the author, by the way. Over the course of this weekend, I've received an enormous, massive outpouring of reactions and responses from my Ukrainian readers, expressing anger, sorrow, disappointment, and pain about the fact that I would choose to release a book into the world right now that is set in Russia, she says. For side note, aren't they in a fucking war?
Yeah.
Like they're really reading novels right now instead of like making sure they don't get blown up.
All right. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I feel like, and why I say that, I don't mean to be insensitive. I feel like these people aren't Ukrainians.
Right.
Like Ukrainians in Ukraine, these critics, I think they're just Americans with Ukrainian flags in their bio.
Yeah.
So,
And I wonder, like, how many like negative comments did she receive? Like, she makes it seem like it was like a flood, but it's like, was it 10 people saying, "Hey, this
it
is
was so she talks about that, or Kat talks about that.
Okay.
They flooded her Goodreads page, and I have heard that this is more of like an economic decision. Which, if that's the case, don't hide behind good intentions of like being progressive.
Right.
But I will get to that. So,
okay.
I want to say that I've heard these messages, read these messages, and I respect them. It's not time for this book to be published. And then Kat says, until this week, Elizabeth Gilbert was best known as the author of Eat, Pray, Love, yada, yada. And then Gilbert's upcoming novel, The Snow Forest, was set in 1930 Siberia, which, as we all know, is part of Russia, which, as we all know, is the headquarters of Vladimir Putin's ongoing and execrable, I don't know that word, execrable war against Ukraine. As is so often the case when it comes to publishing controversies, this fourth-degree connection between American author and Russian imperialist wasn't a big deal until suddenly it was. Over the weekend, The Snow Forest was trashed on the book review site Goodreads in an organized campaign by people who took exception to Gilbert's choice of setting. So this answers your question here, Joe. As of this writing, the book has 174 reviews and 533 ratings. Every single one of them 1 star, and most employing eerily similar language that suggests the existence of a form letter lurking behind the scenes. Chief among them, the claims on the page, which has now been removed, is that Gilbert's book, which was not slated for release until February 2024, and absolutely none of its critics have read, is guilty of, quote-unquote, romanticizing Russia. So, one, why are you allowed to leave reviews if the book's not even out yet?
Right, exactly.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I know IMDb doesn't let you do that.
Good. So so this is where I actually, this is like the one area where I can speak from my lived experience, Joe. I can speak
that experience.
Yes, my lived experience, not my hypothetical quasi experience.
Gotcha.
But like, I think these websites need to do a better job of like sussing through legitimate critiques and this kind of bullshit. But like, and I understand that's easier said than done.
Sure.
But this is a very easy one because the book is not out.
Yeah.
You should know that this is all fake.
Right.
And they should take this down because it's people's well-being. Like, I had a guy who doesn't like me.
Yeah.
There's a guy out there who doesn't like me. I think I knew who it is. I don't know him personally, but it's like an internet bullshit thing. because I had a bunch of random negative reviews on some of my books that like did not like clearly the person did not read the books.
Yeah.
I've had bad reviews before, and they're legitimate, as in the person read the book, they didn't like certain things, another person has read and has liked, right, and they didn't like it. And some of it I think is dumb, but it's like
Sure.
political things or whatever. It's like no one's books are for anyone, especially mine. So people have different views, but at least those criticisms, the person actually like digested or ingested the art and then wrote a review. That was not the case here with my experience. That this was just someone who was just
some weird grudge.
Censoring my work, which I think is bullshit. I got one taken down finally, but the other one is still not, and it's BS. But anyway, so like I can speak to this. It does suck. Like, and I had one, or I had two, but like one person on a couple different books. Like this, she had 500.
Jeez.
And the book's not even out.
Yeah.
So now, and I did, and of course, my gut reaction, like I think yours is, and is that like, oh, she's just kowtowing to the mob, right? But also, I heard someone else talk about this on podcast. It's like this is probably an economic issue too. Like that's why she says the time is not right now for this to be published. That doesn't mean she's not going to publish it eventually, and in which case it'll probably have a new Goodreads page because it's probably not great for sales. If you go and if you know this writer, you've read her work before, I'm sure that you'd be like, wait, why does she have 500 negative reviews? Like that doesn't make sense. She can just write this pile of shit. I've liked her work before. But for someone who doesn't, who's someone who just finds this book because they're looking up stories that take place in 1930s Russia, you're definitely not going to buy it if it has all these reviews. And like I didn't know who Gil, like I knew Pray Love, and I saw her video. I didn't put them together. Like I had no idea who she was. Not that I'm the demographic anyway that she's trying to reach, but that's I could see how that just from a publishing standpoint, like her publishers was like, this can't come out now.
She should retitle the book. Don't change it like any of the story. Just change the title to A Place for Wolves, which was Kosoko Jackson's canceled book.
Right. Yes.
I mean, there were wolves in Siberia, I'm assuming, like, right? I'm sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
It makes sense geographically. So yeah, she's just was all right. Well, I'm just going to take that name's up for grabs. That book didn't get published, so I'll just take that name. So
right. And I mean, they already point out that the irony is it's a book set during Stalinist Russia. Yeah. About self-censorship because you will be attacked by a mob. Now it's a different type of mob, not a government, take you out of your bed in the middle of the night mob, but a civilian mob still. They talked about here about these, what would you call it, pressure campaigns, where right here, it's like in the world of YA fiction, where this type of pressure campaign was invented and refined, a single outrage tweet or post could kick off a maelstrom of righteous indignation, when often amplified by authors themselves. There's a bucket of crabs dynamic to these controversies. In YA, previously unknown authors could gain a boost in visibility by aligning themselves with cancellation-happy influencers, or for that matter, take out a competitor by way of seeding rumors that their book was politically incorrect. Unsurprisingly, one of the top Goodreads critics of Gilbert appears to be an author of fantasy novels herself. Surprise, surprise. I think we saw this a lot too. I know Rogan talks a lot about this in like comedy. Yep. Like there's definitely a contingent of comedians who just sided with the establishment and government and COVID regime, and would like people that they would just tear down other comics who weren't towing the line. Yeah. And they, I don't know how well they're doing now. I don't think they picked the right side, obviously. Right. Even from like that's like more of a morals and value standpoint, but even from an economic standpoint, like I don't know how well they're doing because that's just not funny. It's not funny to be like Stephen Colbert is not funny. Exactly. Jimmy Kimmel is not funny. Like they're obviously doing fine. I think a lot of that has to do with pharmaceutical advertising than actual like fans of their work. Yep. But I mean, for other, I think a lot of comics hitch their wagon. A lot of not already popular comics, like Stephen Colbert and Kimmel, those guys are as establishment as it gets, but they weren't always that way. They worked their way to that and now can seem comfortable. A lot of like not famous comics hitched their wagon to that, hoping that, you know, they were going to be on the right side in the end. I don't think it worked out.
Yeah. I think, you know, these pressure campaigns are so dumb. I mean, like for all the reasons that we've talked about on so many occasions, but also I think that there's also times when a work comes out and like the culture as a whole just is not interested in that sort of thing at that specific time. So for example, this is less politically charged, but John Carpenter's film The Thing, which came out in 1982, it came out like 1 or 2 weeks after Steven Spielberg's E.T. came out. And so and you know, E.T. was a huge fucking hit, whereas the Thing flopped. And so it was just sort of like
The Thing flopped.
Yeah, The Thing flopped.
Wow.
And so it was one of those things where it's like John Carpenter, like I don't know if this is completely true, but John Carpenter was kind of like, I think, you know, because I mean, you know, the movie's a classic and it got great reviews, but it's one of those things where it's like everybody was so caught up in the love of like an adorable little alien, people were not really in the mood for a terrifying, gory alien movie set in the middle of, like, people love like, oh, there's this cute suburban alien, and then 2 weeks later, an R-rated gory alien movie came out, and sort of like the culture's just not really interested in that right now. Maybe you said maybe you'd waited it. Another example was there in the early 90s, there was a Bruce Willis action movie called The Last Boy Scout. And it's pretty. It's a cool movie. It got decent reviews, but it flopped because it was a very violent movie, and it came out in December. And it's sort of like, yeah, maybe December is not the greatest time to put in like a violent action movie. Like maybe unless it's a Christmas themed movie, should have been more of an action, but more of a summer release. So tying it back to this thing, it's like, yeah, you know, Russia and Ukraine, that's a very touchy subject for a lot of people, for people on both sides. It's like, maybe, you know, if she'd have released it, it might have flopped on its own because people are just like, yeah, I don't really feel like reading a book about Russia right now. I'm just tired of all this Russia stuff.
But but I think, and that's what Kat says here, like this fourth degree, it's like, okay, so when America is doing one of its bullshit things, like you can't read a Civil War book because we invaded Iraq. Right. Like, because you don't want to read about America. Like, to me, that is so like that. And that's what has become so concerning, are these degrees of separation that still lead to the pressure campaign, which I like that term. I never heard that term, by the way. That's a really good.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that term a lot. Pressure campaigns. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
I think, you know, my spidey senses always tingle in these things too, because I have to look at the labor side of it.
Right.
And I always feel like they give maybe too much credit to, you know, I honestly don't know. I don't know if it's like it's pretext that she's canceling for these good intentions, quote unquote, which I think is still dumb, but like, or if it was from the publisher and they get to almost save face in a way while saving money, so they can win both sides, right?
Right.
So like, you could publish the book, stand for your values, which are just like basic free speech, like art focused, like, and maybe not make money and piss off people.
Right.
I don't know how many people there actually are, but fine. They're the loud voices. Or the publisher can go, you know what? Let's look at the bottom line here. We're still going to publish it eventually.
Yeah.
We can do the PR thing, save face there, and save money. Save face with this group. Now, people like us, you've lost me as any sort of potential reader, right? But they usually don't think that way. Right. Which is dumb. Look at Bud Light. They always think that they'll just grow and grow and grow. It's like, no, you can't alienate your base either. Not that I was at her base, but I am a reader. So I could have come across. And I do love Russia. Like, fuck, I want to go to fucking Russia, like really bad. Now I probably won't go for a very long time if I ever go.
Right.
I mean, who knows? But like, that just interests me. Like, I might have stumbled across that book and it sounded cool. Now I would go out of my way not to read it because she caved. She had done the opposite, I might go out of my way to read it.
Exactly.
Right. If she had stood for her values, I maybe would have supported her. This seems like you're not going to win over. Like, I don't think these people who wrote these 500 reviews are going to buy this book whenever it comes out. Like, I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
And she's a big enough author where it's like, okay, 500. And it's like, you know, like we kind of implied, like it's highly dubious that it actually was 500 people. Is most likely a very small number.
Probably,
much smaller. But even if it was 500 people, it's like, okay, but you're such a big best-selling author, 500 people versus a million people that are still going to buy your
Yeah, you're
stuff.
like, and you like these women authors who write something Eat, Pray, Love, like she's gonna be in every book club. Like
Yeah.
this book would like just the name alone, she's gonna get in book clubs. And I don't know what happened. I say this before. I feel like men have stopped reading. Like
Yeah.
I feel like reading is, especially fiction, I should say, fiction reading just feels overwhelmingly female.
Yeah.
That's not that's great. Like I write fiction.
Yeah.
I just see it with my email lists, my reviews, my readers who like it's overwhelmingly female. I don't know why men seem to have stopped reading fiction.
Yeah.
They're just reading, just like my friends, like not many read fiction at all.
Yeah.
Which is really crazy to me. I read I used to just read like fiction. I read about half and half, I would say, kind of mix it up. But yeah, so I don't know if, so basically I'm saying like she would have been fine monetarily. So that also makes me think like, well, where the fuck is the backbone here of the author and the publisher? And if the publisher is saying, well, we won't make as much money, like you would think someone like her, she's blessed that she has this base. Wouldn't you just go take it elsewhere if you had any more, like you had your values?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not in traditional publishing, so maybe it's easier said than done, but it's just so I mean, cats, it's so cringe.
Yeah.
What?
No, I mean it's just the idea of like, you know, she's probably a millionaire. If not, then she's very close to being a millionaire. But it's like I'm going to do the right thing in this thing. It's like, oh, shut up! You don't really care about this. You're just
I don't think she really cares, and I don't like, you're just alienating people who could have supported you. I don't think you're really winning over your critics. Maybe some. But I think that's kind of been shown as like usually the apology doesn't actually get you in the good graces of people again. It's just more.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was there was a study that came out a year or two ago that said that people who demand apologies, when they receive that apology, they do not actually forgive that person. It's more like, good. Now I know that I can control you. I can coerce you into.
Win.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, these are not like, if these are your fans, like fuck them. Like even if you apologize, like, all right, fine, I'll buy your next book. And it's like, but they'll drop you at a second. So it's like, fuck them. Like appeal to your core base who will buy your books no matter what.
It would be so nice to see more of that too.
Yeah.
Like you see it sometimes. It doesn't.
Sure, like Tarantino or Ben Stiller with Tropic Thunder, you know.
Yeah, okay. Distiller because of the blackface.
Yeah, because he said like within the last few months where somebody went on Twitter like, hey, so do you think it was wrong that what you did for Tropic Thunder? He goes, nope, I'm not apologizing for anything. It's like, fuck yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him.
Pull that up real quick because it happened kind of recently.
Oh, I didn't know that. I did see. Oh, perfect, dude. Perfect example. I was just saying was there was something that was like, LOL, Zoomers finding out about Tropic Thunder through the Downey Jr. blackface. Yeah.
Here it is. Let's see, where is it? So I noticed on Twitter how liberals have been trying to cancel culture the movie Tropic Thunder. Now people like Ben Stiller are actually apologizing for what? It's a classic movie. And so that was a screenshot from somebody, and so they posted it. And then Ben Stiller responded. He goes, "I make no apologies for Tropic Thunder. Don't know who told you that. It's always been a controversial movie. It's always been a controversial movie since we opened. Proud of it and the work that everyone did on it." So, and this is in February of this year.
Oh,
so
good for him. I love that movie.
Yeah, it was great.
That was a great, like, underrated. That was a freshman year of college. Like my brother actually, he got me that movie before it came out because he got it in like Thailand or something. So I had this bootleg version of Tropic Thunder that when you put it in, it had like a bunch of Thai in it for, I think it was Thailand or Vietnamese or something like that. And it was like very cool to me that I had this movie before it came out.
Yeah.
For like wide release on DVD.
Yeah.
I still have it somewhere.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah. So I want to read there's a couple more paragraphs here I want to read. So she goes, for a community of ostensibly creative people, the literary world has a remarkable fondness for groveling displays of conformity. Authors who self-canceled were almost invariably applauded for their courage and sensitivity. For a time, there's even a thriving little cottage industry of anti-cancel culture pundits, energetically assuring concerned audiences that there was nothing to see here. And I just give some examples. I'm going to skip those. So, yada yada. They talk about freedom fries, which is funny.
Oh, I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember that whole thing.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, remember 2003? Yeah, freedom fries, which is so funny because if you read Sinclair Lewis's "It Can't Happen Here," they do the same thing with sauerkraut because they're fighting the Germans, and they call it like not like Liberty Cabbage or something. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm not even fucking kidding. It's like history repeats itself. Yeah, that book came out well before 2003, and yeah, it was like the renaming foods. Fucking great.
Oh man, and that's great.
Right here. Okay, so here's good. Perhaps most tellingly, this was a bridge too far, even for some of the most diligent defenders of similar previous incidents. The Russian people are human beings, wrote Osita Nwanavu on Twitter. Oh, that's good because they actually, I skipped one of the ones I skipped was that person being in that cottage industry. So it looks like some people do come around, which is nice. Yeah. Stories can and should be told about them. They're not reducible to the actions of the present government. This stuff over the last year has been pretty unsettling, honestly. Good. Okay, so we do like to see that someone who probably in like the 2015 through 2020, 2021 era was on the side of the canceling and then starts realizing that the wrongness of their ways. Maybe they get canceled, they get Robespierre'd, as we call it. But as Americans, we should be totally cool with this idea because I don't want to be reduced to my government.
Right.
Like I don't want, and that is like Republicans, it's Democrats. Like I don't want other people, and that happens to us all the time, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like most people actually, you get really warmly, like people are very warm to Americans in most of the places I've been. Yeah. But when you do, and then when you do get criticism just for being that nationality, like it's like, dude, you're mad at my government.
Right, exactly.
Like, yeah, we have representational government, but it's also like, even if you vote for them, it's special interests, it's lobbyists, it's powers that you have no control over that are really pulling the strings. Right. So like, don't fucking take it out on me, man. Like if someone came here from, I don't know, like I'm not giving shit to Chinese people because I don't like their government.
Exactly.
Okay, fine. Australians are exception. I'm always gonna rip on Australians. Like other people because of their governments. Like that's insane. That's a ridiculous like string of logic to possess. Like that's crazy. Yeah. Oh yeah. Then she gives some funny examples. Should we digitally censor the Big Lebowski lest Ukrainians be harmed by the dude's drink of preference? Which, if you know the joke, it's the White Russian.
White Russians, yeah.
I mean, we were very early on this, which you know, pat on the back for us.
Fuck yeah.
About the like, I think we even had a whole episode like early on, like stop canceling Russian artists. Like, the violinist in Toronto has nothing to do with the invasion of Ukraine.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, like the United States government. I'm sorry, the United States government is way more at fault for the invasion of Ukraine than some violinists putting on a show in Canada.
Right.
Like, or that ballet dancer or that basketball player, soccer team, or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's so like even today, dude, like I've gotten really into tennis recently. So I was watching the French Open, which is my favorite Open, and they still blank out the Russian flag.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's crazy.
Like Medvedev is Russian, I believe. Like they don't have his flag. Or I was watching the women's. I'm like, why doesn't she have a flag next to it? And my friend who's really into tennis, he's like, oh, they blank it out because it's Russian. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
They're getting Andrew Yang'd.
Like if I, what's that mean?
Oh, because do you remember when he was running for president? So they had like the candidates who like the top 6 candidates who raised the most funding for their campaign, and they had Andrew Yang, but they had like some other like Asian guy.
That's so racist.
Something like it was some like it was like we're just gonna like pretend like Andrew Yang's not part. We're gonna do everything we can to pretend.
I thought they just left him off,
and they left him off. Like, but even but like the person at number 6 had actually raised less than Andrew Yang, so Andrew Yang should have been there. But it's like they're just doing everything they can to pretend he doesn't exist. Like it was crazy.
No, dude, it's so and it's so that connection. like I remember walking by the Russian tea room in Midtown.
Yeah.
And it was like they had a big banner up
Mm.
about supporting you. It's like, and even my liquor store here,
Yeah.
when this all happened, it was like, we're not selling Russian vodka, and Stoli had a whole thing. It's like, it's actually made in Latvia, which I had known because I worked in a liquor store, but like Stolichnaya, which is it looks very Russian. It's very like, I always like the design because I really like that Soviet kind of look, but it's like actually made in Latvia, I believe. So they had big posters for that. And I just want to be like, are you guys serious? Like are you, I don't know. I would never I've never walked by an Afghani restaurant and be like, we're at war with you. Not even really, because these aren't like, that was like war against a country, but be like, oh, like you're the enemy. That makes no, I couldn't even imagine that. Or any other sort of like a Vietnamese restaurant and think like they're the enemy. Like if anything, they're probably here because they're enemies in their country. Right. They criticized whatever, they're a different religion or different ethnic group or whatever the fuck it is to whoever's in power there, and they came here for liberty. Now if there are people who are pieces of shit who come here and then support whoever we're fighting, like then get the fuck out. Like that's different. But also we are not at war with Russia. Like
exactly.
I mean, we are, but like it doesn't matter anyway. That's why it's also dumb. But getting back to this, I guess that's really it. Like it's just very, it felt, I don't know, I thought we were past this, and this is the newest one, and this isn't like I'm a white woman author and I wrote a character about a black queer point of view.
She seems like the type to do that though.
100%, definitely. But
I'd be surprised if she hasn't done that in some form at some point.
What about if, I mean, her name's not Russian. Like, what if someone was like, no, you actually shouldn't write this because you shouldn't write from a Russian point of view. And she gets it from a different side. Like that. But I don't know. I thought we were past this. Like, I thought people could take criticism and like be like, no, this is art. I'm obviously not writing like a pro-Putin novel. I thought the book took place in the 90s because I think whoever I listened to before had that wrong. It takes place in the 1930s. So it's like 90 years ago.
Right.
What does that have to do? Like 90 years ago, America was a different country. Well, like Russia was it literally was a different country. It was the USSR. But like, what are we talking about? And I don't know. I would love, we say it all the time, these school boards, or not school board, these deans, these presidents at universities, these publishers, like there is some who push back, but it'd be nice to see more of it. Like we saw Netflix push back with the Dave Chappelle thing. That was nice. It's also not that hard because he's the most popular comedian in the world. And it's like a dollars and cents thing. I would like to see it for something like this where it's like so absurd. That's like, hey guy, like I hear what you're saying. I could understand the knee-jerk reaction, but this is what the book's about. You do the throat clearing. I think the invasion's evil and Putin's Hitler, all that shit. But like, just like keep it out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Honestly, I mean, like, preferably, I just wouldn't say anything, but I could at least understand someone being like, "Hey, the book doesn't touch on these topical issues. It's a completely different setting. I understand your frustration, but trust me, it's not what you think. But I understand why you would not want to read the book right now. It's like, okay, fine, but I mean, if it was up to me, I'd just be like, hey, everybody, fuck off.
I knew you would say that. Though. But like, so if it was just like some like mean quote tweets or something, or like critical replies, like, yeah, I agree. But I do, like, as an author myself, I do see that like I have 500 bad reviews here. The book doesn't even come out yet. Like, I should address this for my own sake. Like, if that happened to me, I would address it, like asking for support, asking you to see from my point of view, this is what's going on. This is about, I maybe you misunderstood something. I don't know how. I probably won't even be that, compromising, but I would still address it. Like, so I do see that as in, like, you don't just want to let it go, because then what if you're a Gilbert fan and you go to look at her, she has a new release coming out, because they promote these things far in advance, and it's like, what the hell is going on here? And then you go to the author and it's silent.
Yeah.
So I see her reaction there, but don't cave.
Exactly. Yeah.
You caved. You
Man,
got
500
roast
people didn't like it, and they didn't like it for the same reason, and with writing in the
Yeah.
exact same style.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously they don't like the idea of it,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's not how art works.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I don't know, but it's upsetting. But hey, we made a podcast about it, so
Yeah.
it gives us something.
Thanks, Gilbert. You provided us with content.
Lemonade out of lemons.
We appreciate your cowardice. Yeah, well, I think it's good that we have content. I think at the end of the day, the reckless music is what really matters here as a brand.
That's very true. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Hey, sign up for our Patreon. I even said to myself in the car today, I'm like, okay, got to remember to promote because we're so bad at that. Yeah, I was like, in the first 3 minutes. Ah, shit. Well, no one
Hey.
has this one anyway. Hey, team.
That was smooth.
Hey, guys. We have a Patreon, different tiers, different merch. They start at $3. For $3, you can get a sticker and an ebook. For our final tier, you can get like sweatshirts and paperbacks or ebook if you want, and lots of other stuff. And you also support us, and we love you. Also, like and subscribe. That's something it took us 81 episodes to say.
Yeah. So smash that subscribe button.
Smash, hey, and smash the button down below. You know where to go. I can't even do that with a straight face. But also, retweet, like all that shit.
We deserve it.
We would appreciate it. We do deserve. We're giving you 81 episodes.
Yeah, we would subscribe to your stupid podcast, listener.
Well, that's not going to win anyone over, Joe. So,
I mean, we would listen to your stupid.
Share our stuff because that's why we do this. And thank you for listening. And
thank
we
you. Love you.
Love you. Love you.
Ooh. All right. Stay right, Benjamin.
Start the weekend.